Welcome, everybody. My name is Paul Golin. I am the executive director of the Society for Humanistic Judaism. I'm also the lead staff of Jews for a Secular Democracy, which is our initiative defending the separation of church and state through a uniquely Jewish lens. And for those of you who may be hearing about this for the first time, when we say secular democracy, we're talking specifically about our government. Our government was built to be secular, meaning not religious. It doesn't say anything about the people in our country. The people in our country are free to be religious or not. That's the point. So when we say Jews for a secular democracy, we're coming at it from the full gamut of Jewish identity, which may be religiously Jewish. It may be secularly Jewish. It may be culturally Jewish. It may be ethnically Jewish. It may be Jews who just identify Jewish because they like the food. The point is, in America, you have the freedom to identify that way because our government is secular. And we felt like there was a unique opportunity to speak to these issues as Jews. There are great organizations who are working on separation of church and state for all people, like the Americans United for Separation of Church and State. There are great Jewish organizations working on lots of issues related to separation of church and state, but they don't really come at it from a First Amendment perspective. Then there are great organizations like the one we're going to hear about today who are working on separation of church and state in a very particular realm, and that's important too. We felt like here was an opportunity for Jews to bring the full experience of their Jewish identity to the American arena around the issues of separation of church and state. So we want to thank you so much for being with us. We have a small staff working on this, but we are very much hoping to make this a volunteer run and driven initiative. We've got cohorts now in Florida, Illinois, and Michigan. And next week at this time, we're going to be talking to New Yorkers who may want to create actions around these issues in New York State. I'm in New York. It is typically seen as a very liberal place. There are church-state separation issues happening in the New York legislature as well that we can talk about. So I encourage you to get involved in this initiative if it's of interest to you. So tonight, I'm really excited to be able to speak with Mikey Weinstein, who is the founder and executive director of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. I won't do too much of his bio because I really want to hear his story from him, but he's been honored for his work by groups like Jews for Racial and Economic Justice and Americans United for Separation of Church and State. He was named one of the 50 most influential Jews in America by The Forward. He's author of 2 books, including With God on Our Side, One Man's War Against an Evangelical Coup in America's Military. So I want to thank you so much for being here, Mikey, and I want to welcome you. And can you please tell us your origin story? What prompted you to found the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, and what does it do?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate it. I think that what you guys are doing is very, very badly needed in our society right now in a very, very specific way. And I guess the simple answer to the question is I started off as a pissed off parent. I graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy. My dad went to the Naval Academy in Annapolis. And I remember the day, February 4th, 2004. I got into this because of Mel Gibson. His movie came out, The Passion of the Christ, or as we refer to it, the Jesus Chainsaw Massacre, or Freddy versus Jesus. And I found out at the time the incredible pressure my alma mater, the Air Force Academy, was putting on the cadet wing, which is like the student body at any other college, faculty and the staff to go see this thing. I had some of my kids there at the time, 3 of them there at the time. And I was sure that someone had made a mistake, that somebody was overzealous or whatever. It was like pulling on a thread on a shirt or a sweater. The more I pulled, the more I realized that not only was this not someone overzealous, this was a systemic attempt to propagate the gospel, the weaponized version of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that was February 4th, 2004. So I guess we're in our, I have to do the math, 18th year now. My wife and I formed the foundation actually 22 months later, December 15th, 2005. We couldn't find any other organization that could focus with laser-like precision on the incredibly how do I describe this? Tribal, adversarial, communal, ritualistic nature of the military. Our family was kind of unique in that 3 generations of military academy graduates and nearly 140 years of combined active duty military service, and pretty much every major military engagement that our country's been in from the Civil War to the present time. And we had to fight this. We are very close with Americans United. They're like a sister organization. And we reached out to other places like the ADL, the ACLU, but they're not focused on really fully understanding the nature of our military, the way that that we are. And give me 1 second. I'm going to stop the dogs from moving around. Lots. Sorry.
That's okay.
They perform a very important function for us, and they don't realize we're doing a webinar right now. Long story short, I didn't want any other parents to have to go through what we went through. I had faced some pretty bad anti-Semitism in 1973 as a result of the Yom Kippur War during my first year at the academy, my first few months there. And it resulted in realizing that we had to fight against this and fight very militantly and aggressively in support of the Constitution. So we're not like other organizations. We are a blunt weapon, and it's necessary to get the attention of the Department of Defense when you, if you're viewed as being soft or bureaucratically oriented, you will not get their attention. And all these years later, hold on for a second, the dogs decided, bear with me, this is the fun of live TV, right? Okay, come on, you gotta let that go. No, give me 1 second.
Uh-huh. Usually it's not a Zoom meeting until someone needs to be told to unmute themselves. So this is at least a unique experience on Zoom.
Well, sorry about that, guys. This
That's
is
no
real
problem.
time. We're on the bridge of the Enterprise, and these dogs are very, very tenacious. So this may not be
That's
the
all
last
right.
time. I'm the only one here at the house. Bottom line is, we now represent over 73,000 members of the U.S. military. About 95% of them are actually Christians themselves. And boy, we picked a great time for this.
Don't worry about it. I mean, let's just, it's not that, it feels more distracting to you, I think, than to us.
They alert when they see something that needs to be alerted with. So Betty, so we designed this to fight hard. When we get contacted by a member of the military or a civilian member of the military, not just you know, we have many civilians that work for the Army, the Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and of course now the Space Force, or even civilian contractors. We try to react within seconds or minutes and not hours and days. And as a result of this, this level of required pugnacity, I don't think anybody's reminded more every day that they're Jewish than I am, and I'm not very religious at all, not in the slightest. Stop. They've been quiet all day until just now. And so, you know, my wife's actually written 2 books published by our publishers in LA, just with the hate mail that we get.
Wow.
As I mentioned before, we've had enough attacks here at the house, so we have an excellent group of bodyguards. We have 4 very highly trained security dogs, a lot of cameras, guns, a very close relationship with our local SWAT folks. And we're not gonna stop doing what we're doing, despite the threats that we get on a constant basis. And if my last name was Smith and I was a plumber, as opposed to being a Jewish last name, Weinstein, and being a lawyer, I don't think we see 98 or 99% of the hell that we go up against. But we also have to face Jewish organizations that are not always aligned with what we do, rarely. AIPAC, I'm a member of the Jewish War Veterans, and you know, sometimes they're supportive, but not always. And so we've had to be out here on our, you know, we're a secular organization. We have about 84% of our staff of nearly 600 paid and volunteer are Christian, but we have Jews on the staff. And of course we represent hundreds of Jews that have gone through all kinds of hell in our military. But it's bad enough. You talked about, Paul, separation of church and state. Losing that in a state legislature or among sewage workers or cops or firefighters or even public schools is bad enough. But here's the deal. They don't have weapons of mass destruction. They don't have drones, nuclear weapons, conventional weapons, laser guided weapons, etc. So we're fighting this battle in the one place that has all of those. So
right. So that was going to be my next question. And it was interesting to hear you talk about, because I know you had faced
hold on 1 second.
It's all right. Let him go. Let him go.
No. Lots.
They are just so excited about the idea of Jews for a secular democracy.
They really are. So I'm just trying to make sure that they abide by all of the rules and plots. So they react to, ironically, orders in German and French, and a little bit in English. So we're getting there. So this may be more of a unique thing that we're doing. It's real time. So that's our story. We're fighting a bunch of very bad people that are trying to use their version of fundamentalist Christianity as a cudgel or a hammer to beat the rest of us into submission so that they can try to serve as an accelerant or lubricant to bring their version again of weaponized Jesus back, accelerate the apocalypse, and get on to the next version of reality, which is their blood-drenched concept of that is described in their version of the book of Revelation, singular, not plural. It's a worthy fight, but it's like being a firefighter. You have to come down the pole whenever the bell goes off. The bell goes off many times during the night and day. So
yeah, I mean, it was interesting to hear you talk about the systemic issues versus like when you experienced the anti-Semitism that you did at the academy, maybe you thought, okay, this is just what happens to Jews here. And like, but when you got that perspective after it happened to your kids that, oh, this is systemic. So what, and you're referencing the revelation and the ideology that's driving some of it. What are the big issues right now that you see happening that you're trying to push back on?
Well, basically, I use the concept. I just did this in an op-ed about a week or so ago. For those of you that remember President Eisenhower, West Point graduate, his most famous speech was his last speech, where he warned America and the world about the so-called military-industrial complex. What we fight here at MRFF, the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, is nothing less than a fundamentalist, Christian nationalist, parachurch, corporate, congressional, military proselytizing complex. There are probably 36 incredibly well-funded fundamentalist Christian parachurch organizations that are inextricably intertwined into the very DNA of the Pentagon, or we often call it the Pentecostal Gon. Their goal is to use our military as a force multiplier to basically take over the world. That is the bottom line. I know what it sounds like. We don't have time in this podcast to talk about the 7 Mountains Mandate. You can ask Sarah Palin about that. The New Apostolic Reformation. All of these things are freighted all over the Department of Defense. It is as I mentioned, the military, our family. I'm an academy graduate. 4 of my kids are. My dad went to the Naval Academy. So we're kind of uniquely suited to do this. I'm very proud of being Jewish, even though I'm not very religious at all. I still pray 3 times a day in Hebrew because it makes me feel good, like a beer at a ball game. I kiss the mezuzim around the house. I'm, as you described earlier on, Paul, in this webinar, ethically and culturally, I'm going to be as Jewish as you get. When it comes to the theology, I respect it, just like I respect the theology of all of our, I think we've had every possible religion you can have except for Scientology among our clients. We even have 12 members of the Church of the Jedi right out of Star Wars. We don't ask. That's not, all we care about is the time, Paul, place, and manner in which a member of the military believes they have the right to deploy their faith. And that's when you get, Israel has no constitution. They never wrote one. We have one in this country because our founding framers looked at the European history where most of the horrors that had occurred in Europe had been when men of the cloth had been men in political power. They looked at Cromwell in England. They didn't have to go much beyond, the Salem witch trials. They said, we're not going to do that here. That is amazing. I know that most of the framers were slave owners. I get it. I know that the country, is criticized for being built on slavery and genocide of Native Americans. I understand all that. And it's horrible. I live in a state with a very high Native American population, and we've represented many Native Americans here at MRFF. But that unique concept of cleaving a chasm or a canyon between belief systems, religion, and state is amazingly unheard of before. And that's something that's worth fighting for. And we better damn well start fighting now.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but my image of the military today is one of diversity. So is the issue that the evangelical fundamentalists are higher up and they're kind of directing it to the enlisted people? I mean, am I wrong to think that there is real diversity in the military?
There has been diversity since President Truman was pretty much forced to integrate the military, and I think it was 1947. But there is still an overwhelming presence of the fact that the solution for everything in the military is straight, white, Christian, and male. For instance, in the military, they'll talk about how we fight to preserve the rights of women. It's an incredibly misogynistic place that has a horrible situation going on with sexual assault and predation. We still have massive racism in the military. 20% of the people in the insurrection on January 6th were either active duty, reserve guard, or veterans. Now, why is that? Because of the amazing omnipresence and ubiquitousness of this concept of fundamentalist Christianity, dominion Christianity. I want to make it clear, we represent a large number of evangelicals are fine. They're on our staff, they donate to us, they're clients of ours. It's just like driving a car. If you drive a car and you're not stoned or high and you're not overly tired, that's perfectly fine. So if you want to follow the Great Commission, one of the last things Jesus is supposed to have said, Paul, to his disciples, Mark 16:15, Matthew 28:19, which is go and make disciples of all nations, get them into the faith. As long as you follow the time, place, and manner requirements of our Constitution and is construing federal and state case law and all of the directives, instructions, and regulations of the Pentagon, you're good to go with us. So we have people on our staff, people that are friends of mine that probably believe all of us are going to burn in hell if we don't accept Christ, but they are incredibly wonderful human beings who follow the rules. When you decide you can scream Jesus in a crowded theater, that irrespective of time, place, and manner, you can use your position of military authority to push your faith on a helpless subordinate. That's Jerry Sandusky at Penn State, pushing what he was doing to the little 9-year-old in the showers at the athletic facility. You can't fight back. If you're even being gently evangelized by your military superior in the military, get the hell or the F out of my face, sir or ma'am, is not an option for you. So they come to us and we do it for them. And we provide our clients AARP, not the one you're thinking about, but anonymity, action, results, and protection. Most of our clients never want to have anything related to the light of day of their cases known. A small percentage might write a thank you note to us and talk a little bit if we take out the time, the where, when, and who, and all that stuff. Others, there are a few that will go public. We've had a number of cases go incredibly viral. On this webinar, please Google Jesus rifles or Google Jesus nukes. There's been a zillion of them, but we must be doing a good job because Ted Cruz has written to the Pentagon complaining about us. Many fundamentalist Christian members of Congress have done the same. And Trump's favorite lawyer, Jay Sekulow, who's the head of the bizarro world version of the ACLU, the American Center for Law and Justice, wrote a 7-page, I would call it a letter, but more of a manifesto last week, complaining to the Secretary of the Army about it. So we've got to be doing pretty well if that's going on. Hold on one second. No. Okay.
Do you think things will be better with a Congress that's more friendly to pluralism?
Of course it will be. The answer is, but even during the 8 years of Obama, we had all kinds of serious problems going on. I hope that's not too bad. They got one.
It's all right. It's not too bad. You're hearing it more than we are.
Okay.
So
Lloyd Austin is a very, very good guy. We know this to be the case. But the op-ed that I wrote that I think I sent to you, maybe you saw it, was that I quoted Ayn Rand, not one of my favorite people, who said that you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. White supremacy, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, anti-Semitism, hatred of the Constitution are all subsets of the mothership of dominion or fundamentalist Christianity. Yes, we see some of these same traces in Salafist Islam and Orthodox Judaism, but they're not the ones in power in our military. It is dominionist fundamentalist Christians. And as I said, you can't shake a stick at all the number of organizations. They're on military bases. They're on aircraft carriers. And remember, if you're the lowest ranking officer in the military, Paul, an ensign in the Navy or Coast Guard, or a second lieutenant in the Army, Navy, Air Force, the Army, Air Force, or Marine Corps, the moment you graduate from OCS, OTS, or ROTC, or the academies, your commissioning source, you outrank 90% of the military because you're an officer. And in the military, we have our own military code. For instance, committing adultery in the military is a felony because it destroys good order, morale, discipline, and unit cohesion. If you're ordered to go to the base dentist at 1,600 hours and don't go, that's a felony. It's a very different and specific environment, and they control the nuclear weapons. And this is why that's why we're on this podcast, on this webinar right now, because it's incredibly serious. The ACLU, the ADL, Americans United, all great organizations, but they're not focusing. They're looking at a bunch of other things, which is terribly necessary. And we coordinate with them as much as we can, particularly Americans United. We're very close to Rachel Lasser, Richard Katsky, Rob Boston, have been for years. But we focus specifically, as I said, on the military. And we want to see things get better with regard to Biden being in place. But as I said before, we had to fight for our lives during the 8 years of Obama as well.
Right, right. And so you had mentioned the ADL, but I'm also wondering, what do you see as the role of the organized Jewish community? What can we do more of? What can we do better of?
I speak to pre-COVID, of course, speak all over the country at colleges, universities, and places of worship, mosques, synagogues, churches. When I talk to Jews, I remind them that whether we like it or not, in human history, we tend to be the miner's canary of civilization. That is to say that when we begin to asphyxiate, Houston, there's not a problem, challenge, or issue. There's a national security threat. You look back, and I lost relatives of mine in the Holocaust, and you look back at what happened in Nazi Germany, and we ignore things. We ignore these types of things in our country at our complete peril. Jews aren't any better or worse than any other human beings, but we have a responsibility to look back at history. I don't know how much of what was written in the Pentateuch, our version of the Bible and the New Testament, is real or not. We have enough trouble trying to figure out whether Shakespeare actually existed. But the fact is that we have a responsibility to our heritage and to this country, which gave us, for one of the first times ever, at least in writing with the Constitution, a level playing field. There have been those that obviously try to tip that playing field all the time, and we need to fight back. What we're doing right now in this webinar is the perfect, quintessentially, this is a gem of what we're trying to do, just to discuss this. The military life has not always been the biggest in the Jewish community, but we have 19 Jewish Americans who've won the Medal of Honor. And I remember at the Air Force Academy, my first day there, I was asked what did I believe about something, what I thought about something. I said, "Sir, I believe," and the upper classes screamed at me, "You only believe in God and country at this place." On day 3, I was asked why the Air Force Academy Chapel, I got married there actually, which has 17 spires in it. What did each spire in the famous, and look it up if you haven't seen it, what did it stand for? What do they stand for? And at the time, there'd been 5 Air Force Chiefs of Staff, and the upperclassmen screamed at me, that stands for the 5 Chiefs of Staff of the Air Force and the 12 disciples of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. On day 5 at the Academy, in the summer of 1973, we were running in a formation, and you often do chants when you do that. And the upperclassmen, I'll never forget the chant, was, "All us boys with hair so wavy, come and join the Jewish Navy." It was an attempt to say that Jews tried to get out of World War II by joining the Coast Guard. And it went on talking about noses, and it was the worst thing I'd ever heard. 2 days later was day 7. It was 1, 3, 5, and 7. I'm at the dinner table with an Irish upperclassman who tells me, what do they refer to me as? It was a derogatory term about being a 4th classman, or it was a cadet candidate at that time, because basic training is 6 weeks. Now listen to this. He said, "Weinstein, you're leading a 4-ship formation of F-4 Phantoms into strafe and bomb Tel Aviv. Those are your orders, Weinstein. What do you do?" I knew that this went back, I was 18, to the classic concept, are Jews in it for America, or are they in it for their Jewish, the protocols of the learned elders of Zion to take over the world? Realizing even it had only been 7 days, I asked the upperclassman if I could ask a question, because there's only 5 responses, and he didn't say anything. And I'm at a table with 7 upperclassmen and 3 cadet candidates going through basic cadet training, and I didn't wait for him to give me the answer. I just said, "Sir, what would you do if you were told to lead a 4-ship formation of F-4 Phantoms in and bomb and strafe Dublin?" And all I remember are the chairs pushing back and the upperclassmen, and they ran me up and down hills until I vomited. So that was, and that is how I started at the Air Force Academy. And it got much worse about a month later, and then things kind of settled down. The Christianity aspect was always there, and then 27 years later, it was revisited on my children. So we have to fight, whether you're Jewish, agnostic, atheist, or any faith or non-faith tradition. But particularly, I feel that because of our history and what's happened to us, we cannot be complacent. When we see something wrong, we have to call it out, and we can't just call it out. We have to fight back. This horrible thing with this trial going on with Mr. Floyd's death in Minnesota. There were bystanders that saw that. And some of them have testified, thinking that if only they could have, maybe they should have done this or done that or done more. We don't have to go much past the Third Reich as to what we could have done or should have done when we started seeing things happening. One of my aunts, an elderly aunt who passed away about a year or so two after I started this fight, had been in Nazi Germany and told me how she regretted the fact that when they required all Jews to have the same license plates for their cars, and then Jews could not get together in groups of more than 50 or 20 or 10 or 5, that they did not do more. We can't be like that. We have to be more like the fabled Judah Maccabee and less like, say, the Woody Allen Nebuch type of Jew.
Right.
Of course, Allen has his own issues.
I know he's not safe to quote anymore, but
No.
you know, I really appreciate it. And, you know, I think some people might hear your stories and feel like, well, that's how it was. And then to hear that, no, that's how it still is, even with all that we know today, is shocking and disappointing. And I do want to be mindful of your time. But I do see one of the questions in the Q&A was also about, you know, is this the case for Muslims as well? I know that you guys have worked with people of the Muslim faith who were also being discriminated against. Do you want to mention anything about that as well?
We represent a little more than 18% of all Muslims in the military. We just had a success out at Joint Base Lewis McChord. We have a wonderful young Jewish woman, 3 children, married to a warrant officer in the Army out there who handled we have a lot of representatives at military, so hundreds of them all over the globe and in the nation. We had 2 young Muslim soldiers that at the last minute were not getting accommodation for Ramadan, you know, which has just started last night. So we had to jump in and fight for them. And we have had a long history of fighting for Muslim Americans, Jewish Americans, Catholic, Christian Americans, atheist, agnostic, humanist, secularist Americans, as I mentioned, even Church of the Jedi Americans. You should have the freedom to do whatever you want to do with your faith, but you can't, like I said, you can't violate the laws of the land trying to push it down their throats. But there's only one organization or one flavor of Christianity that we see doing that, and that's the Dominion Fundamentalist Christian Nationalists. Our largest supporting organization is the California Council of Churches, Paul, which is 5,000 impact organization, 5,500 individual Protestant congregations, churches in California, over 1.5 million Protestants, I think 21 or 22 different denominations. So we represent 24 different varieties of Baptists alone here. So it's a hard fight. You know, we don't run on chocolate sauce. We run on donations. We're a 501c3 charity. And it's also hard to compete, particularly during COVID. You know, people understand the ACLU and all the others. And we've been around for, 15, 16 years as a foundation, been in the fight we're in our 18th year now. And it's gratifying to be able to go after bad people that deserve to be fought, because they are picking on those, brutalizing, kicking to the, oppressing and tyrannically harming those that can't fight back because of their subordinate military rank.
It's great. It's great to hear about who you're getting support from. When we use, there's no great language around it, but when we use phrases like Christian nationalists, we always want to explain we're not talking about all Christians. We're talking about a specific ideology.
Yes.
And so that's great to hear. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. And I know that you only have a limited time tonight, but I think we got a lot out of it. And we will continue to share what you're doing with our volunteers. And I hope we'll be able to keep you posted about what we're doing. And we'll post this video and we'll go from there. So thank you very much.
Grateful. It's been a privilege and very honored. And you guys just keep on going. Let's stay in close touch. Maybe we can do this again.
Great. Thanks a lot.
All right, Paul. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.